Tiếng này lâu mốc. Sleeping Dogs is an open-world action game developed by United Front Games and published by Square Enix. This is one of those Grand Theft Auto clones that's actually good. What started out as the third entry in the True Crime series turned into its own IP after the original publisher, Activision, dropped it after a troubled development cycle, and Square Enix stepped in. Sleeping Dogs is one of those games that I played through once during my high school days and never touched again, but I remember it quite well. It's an interesting mix of a foreign locale that's rare in games with parkour, Arkham combat, and GTA's gameplay. It's been years since I played it, so why not come with me to revisit this gem? I'll be reviewing the definitive edition with all the DLCs. Let's see if True Crime Hong Kong still holds up. For a 10-year-old or 8-year-old game for the definitive edition, this still looks decent. The city of Hong Kong is vibrant with neon signs everywhere. The city is full of life with old school Chinese music playing while walking through the alleys. This feels like home. I'm not from Hong Kong, but it's a vibe that China has that's ingrained into my memories. There are some low-res textures, you can't really avoid that in the Xbox 360, PS3 era, but it's definitely one of the better looking open worlds from that generation. With the definitive edition, the devs cleaned up the image more, so it looks closer to an Xbox One PS4 title. Look at that rain. That's some nice rain. This reminds me of those GTA 4 videos where they showcase graphics mods but over-exaggerated reflections and rain puddles with photorealistic in the title. With that said, I think the rain and reflections are the main reasons why it looks so good still. It runs well at 1440p 60fps, though that extreme anti-aliasing option messes the frames. The gameplay is basically GTA with Arkham-style melee combat and parkour. You play as Wei Shin, an undercover cop working to take down the Triads. You have a big city full of side activities to do, and there are main missions for progressing the story. There are many types of missions, ones where you go to a place and beat people up, racing, shootouts, karaoke, parkour chases, car chases, even stealth missions, kind of, where you have to install bugs to eavesdrop on people. It's nothing too special, but the devs do mix up the mission variety once in a while to make things less boring and repetitive. For side activities, you can help your police buddies with some jobs like arresting criminals and hacking cameras to arrest more criminals, illegal street racing, helping random civilians with random jobs, and more. They're the type of missions that are kind of fun for the first few times but gets boring really quickly. Main missions have a ranking system that decides how much experience points you get. There's a cop meter and a triad meter. The triad meter is pretty straightforward, just kill everyone and do cool shit to keep it up. The cop meter is where your ass gets clapped at the slightest mistake. Anytime you crash into a car, destroy objects like fences or lampposts, or hit people, your cop meter will decrease. Hitting people I get, but everything else is almost impossible since the missions are so fast paced and you're chasing dudes and crashing into them all the time that it's inevitable. That doesn't matter too much though. Main missions don't give you much police EXP anyway, so the cop missions are the way to go, but having negative feedback for things you can barely control makes my dick go limp. Punching people in the face feels good. You can do combo moves with different button combinations, and you can upgrade or add to them by bringing jade statues to your martial arts trainer. You don't really need it, it's not like there are enemy types that require you to do specific moves to beat them easier, but it's nice to have for the cool factor. If an enemy turns red, you can counter them. When an enemy is weak, you can grab them and push them into objects for environmental takedowns. Man, some of these are brutal. You can straight up put a man on a hook or shove a man's face into a fan on the wall. I mean, you may be a cop, but you gotta play your part right or you're gonna get popped. The gunplay is probably the weakest aspect of the combat. Most of the time it's alright, but sometimes it feels like the bullets go anywhere but the center of where you're aiming. There are only 2 guns that are accurate if I recall correctly, but you can't keep them since they get thrown away as soon as you're done with a mission. You just have to live with whatever you can find during shootouts. To increase your health, you have to pray to health shrines that you can find around the map, which fits since it's a Chinese tradition to pray for health, wealth, better hentai, or anything really. Every 5 shrines you pray to increase your health level by 10%. These kinds of character upgrade collectibles aren't shown on the map, but you can get perks that do let you see them by dating some ladies you meet throughout the story. You just go to a place, do an activity that's specific to the girl you're with, and that's about it. There's some glitches like this one where Wei just T-poses with no sound, one where the gun sound won't stop playing, and weird shit like AI being stuck on things.
You had the chance.
And car jump RNG during this mission. These didn't happen that often, so it makes it stand out even more when it does. Overall, Sleeping Dogs is a mostly well-made game. It's got everything you expect out of an action game. Although it doesn't do anything too special, it's fun while it lasted. Also, that action hijack is pretty rad. Straight out of Vin Diesel's Wheelman, but it's still freaking satisfying. It's story time. If you don't want spoilers, including the DLCs, go to this timestamp. And if you want to see the DLCs, then go to the DLC timestamp. It's a good story for an action game, so it's not deep, but it's also something that's not often told in games either. The DLCs are not related to the main story in any way, so if you want to see if they're fun, then feel free. You play as Wei Shen, an undercover cop infiltrating the Sun On Yi gang to take them down from the inside. Wei also has a personal reason for taking this job, since he grew up with some of the key members of the gang. Wei's sister, Mimi, died from overdosing on drugs because one of the guys from Sun On Yi, doggies, got her hooked, so understandably he wants to choke a bitch. Under the instructions of his boss Pendrew and handler Raymond, Wei begins his mission by getting caught and thrown in jail to meet with Jackie, his old friend and a member of the Sun On Yi. Jackie is Wei's ticket into the gang and introduces him to Winston, one of the high-ranking members of the Sun On Yi, and he even meets Doggies, who talks a lot of shit. Wei slowly works his way up the ranks in the matter of 4 hours and reports to Raymond once in a while. Raymond's job is to keep Wei in check, making sure he doesn't get attached to the gang members, and sure enough, he does. Wei recognizes that there are some good people, and he even tried to cover for Jackie when Pendrew wants him arrested for interrogation. You start to question which side Wei is on. Like every time Raymond questions Wei whether or not he's in too deep, he just says that it's for his cover, but who even knows anymore? Well, he does dress up as Winston at some point at the end of a mission, and he says that he is Winston now when meeting with Raymond that one time, so it's not the most subtle thing in the world, but it's something to think about, I don't know. Anyway, on Winston's wedding day is when dicks get slapped and cheeks get clapped. Members of what seems to be the rival gang, the 18K, just straight up massacres everyone with only a few survivors. Uncle Po, the chairman of Sun On Yi, unfortunately got severely injured and Wei shot their way through to the hospital. With Winston dead, Wei takes his place as one of the Red Poles, the lieutenants of Sun On Yi. Also, when Uncle Po shot up, the Sun On Yi needs a new chairman, and his nephew takes his place as the temporary chairman. One of the Red Poles, Broken Nose Jang, yes, that's her gangster name, recruits Wei's help to help her become the next chairman and stop the other Red Poles, specifically Big Smile Lee, from taking Uncle Po's place. Winston's mom asks Wei to find out who actually shot up the wedding, and of course, it's Doggies. Doggies works under Big Smile Lee, and the bloody wedding is no doubt Lee's attempt to take over the Sun On Yi. Sometime later, Wei starts doing jobs for this Sunny guy who makes illegal titty films to fund the gang and gets incriminating evidence to take down his operation, heavily crippling the Sun On Yi. At this point, Pendrew tells Wei he's good to pull out, but Wei's not satisfied until the whole gang is shut proper, and Pendrew gets pissed. Wei gets Jackie out of jail to attend Uncle Po's funeral, where the 18K plans to attack. The police are on the scene along with Pendrew, but he doesn't give a fuck and starts being all sus and lets both gangs kill each other. The Red Poles are now arguing with each other about who will take over the gang now since Uncle Po's nephew is useless. Big Smile Lee decides to take over and basically starts an actual war with the Red Poles, having dudes shoot at Wei's hideout and he has to defend it. During the mission, Jackie gets kidnapped and Wei finds him almost buried alive on an island by Big Smile Lee's men. Jackie is like Wei's best buddy in this game, so him being kidnapped is like Lee specifically targeting Wei for some reason. The next day, Wei gets a text from Jackie telling him they should meet. Upon arriving at the location, Wei finds Jackie gutted and hanged in a dirty alleyway before getting knocked out. It turns out that Big Smile Lee knows about Wei's true identity, and he hired a guy to torture him into confessing, discrediting Broken Nose Zhang, and let Lee become the next chairman. Wei somehow gets out, blasts every dickhead in his way, chases down Big Smile Lee, and throw him into an ice chipper. Damn. Before killing Lee, Wei finds out that it was Pendrew who told him about Wei being an undercover cop, but it's already too late to get him. Pendrew's due for a promotion, and there's no concrete evidence to arrest him. Wei gets back to his apartment to find a package from Broken Nose Zhang that contains video evidence of Pendrew killing Uncle Po in the hospital. Their conversation implies that they've been helping each other behind the scenes, so Pendrew is for sure a corrupt cop. White man gets put in jail, and Wei goes back to being a normal cop. At the end, Zhang, now the chairman of Sun On Yee presumably, shows up in a car with her minions. One of them asks if it's okay to let Wei live. Zhang says that Wei shouldn't be a problem since she gave him the evidence to take down Pendrew, so he's free to go. They lived happily ever after. The end. I like the story overall. It's engaging and even suspenseful at times. It's a unique story as well, going into the mental side of being an undercover cop. Pacing is not the best though. I would have liked the game to be longer since it feels like Wei moved up the ranks and got all buddy-buddy with the gang way too quickly, resulting in me not caring about the characters as much as I should. The story definitely could have been deeper, but for what it is, it's a good story for an action game, and that's all it needed to be. Also, it taught me many wholesome phrases such as "屌你老母仆街冚家鏟喺我屁股入邊挖啲屎出嚟俾你食下啦." Now for the DLCs. First up is Nightmare in North Point. There's this ghost called Smiling Cat, and he kidnaps one of Wei's in-game girlfriends, Not Ping, and yes, that's her name. So you have to go around the map beating up Jiangxi, which are basically Chinese undead, and save Not Ping. You go to a place, beat up some undead, throw them back to hell. That's about it. At the end, you learn that Smiling Cat was a Sun On Yee member, but he was too crazy, so he got grinded up into cat food, hence his name. In the final encounter, you go through a few waves of undead and punch Smiling Cat back to health. You save Not Ping, get a thriller reference, and that's it. It's pretty short at just 50 minutes. There's some side missions, but it's just the same punch the undead back to hell thing. It's boring, but I guess if you like the blue haunted ghost town aesthetic, then maybe you might like it. The second DLC is Year of the Snake. It's about this doomsday cult, headed by a Master Chu who believes bombing everything will get him into heaven. Yeah. So you go around the map stopping cult members from blowing shit up. Again, not much to say, it's more of what you do in the main game, pop fools before they pop you. This one is around 1.5 hours long. The DLCs are honestly not good. They have interesting premises but are way too short for you to give any fucks about anything that happens. I say skip them and focus on the main game unless you're really curious. Sleeping Dogs is an awesome action game. The graphics look great and the game runs well, punching people feels good and the mission variety is decent. The story, while not the deepest, is excellent for an action game. It's more than just pew pew bang bang. It's pew pew bang bang with a bit of who am I anymore. There's not a lot to complain about. The gunplay is kinda weak, the frame rate is inconsistent at times, and the DLCs are boring. There are also some glitches that break the immersion a bit, but nothing major. There's really not any replay value unless you really like the story and the gameplay is a bit repetitive, but if it's your first run through, you're in for a ride. It took me about 12 hours to finish the game, DLCs included, and you can get it for a really cheap price on sale, like $4 to $5, so it's definitely worth it. Unfortunately, this is where the Sleeping Dogs series ends. There was a multiplayer spin-off called the Triad Wars that was being developed, but that went nowhere, along with the possibility of a sequel. It's a shame, since it could have been huge if it was managed right. We could have gotten games that are set in other Asian countries, and it would have been interesting to see the devs tackle them. It's shitty, but that's business, and it is what it is. Anyway, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Later.